Philadelphia is an interesting city. Considered the birthplace of America in 1776, its actual founding is often overlooked. While there is iconography of William Penn everywhere, few know the story of Philadelphia and how it came to be. Why is the city named Philadelphia? How did William Penn acquire the land for the city? How was the city laid out? And did William Penn ever even live in Philadelphia? These are questions that I will answer in this video. This is the story of the founding of Philadelphia.
To start this story, we have to go back to May 1680. It was during this month that William Penn petitioned King Charles II for land that would eventually become Pennsylvania. The petition for the land was granted on March 4, 1681. Over 45,000 square miles of land were given to Penn by King Charles II. Almost immediately, William Penn envisioned a city in his new colony. Penn funded a pamphlet on his own dime to advertise his new colony titled, quote, "Some Account of the Province of Pennsylvania." In it, William Penn wrote, quote, "A tract of land shall be surveyed, say 50,000 acres to 100 adventurers, in which some of the best shall be set out for towns and cities." In April 1681, Penn appointed his cousin William Markham as deputy governor of the colony. Markham left England and arrived in the colony in June of 1681. In a letter Penn wrote from London on July 11, 1681, he said, "A certain quantity of land or ground plot shall be laid out for a large town or city." Penn expected the area to be about 10,000 acres for his city. To sweeten the deal for the settlers, whoever purchased 5,000 acres of land in Penn's new colony would get 100 acres of land in his city. William Penn named 3 commissioners to sail from England to the colony to select the site of his new city. They were Nathaniel Allen, John Beezer, and William Crispin, with his cousin William Markham overseeing the entire process. Sadly, William Crispin died on the voyage over and was replaced by William Hague. The men set sail in October of 1681 and arrived in the colony in December of 1681. There was a problem with fulfilling William Penn's request for 10,000 acres for the city. Most of the land along the Delaware River had already been inhabited. There was already a town in the colony called Upland that had been founded by the Swedish in 1644. Penn initially thought that the city might be located in Upland, but he didn't want to buy out many of the people who already owned land there. Ultimately, the commissioners bought land just north of the Schuylkill River. They first purchased just 300 acres from the Swanson family of Wicaco. This gave Penn land along the Delaware River. The Swanson family ties can still be seen in Philadelphia today. They were members of the Old Swedes Church. The current church, built in 1700, is the oldest building in Philadelphia and probably one of the only ones that survives from when William Penn was actually in the colony. In a letter to William Markham written on October 28, 1681, William Penn officially named his new city, saying, "I do call the city to be laid out by the name of Philadelphia, and so I will have it called." William Penn no doubt chose the Greek name of Philadelphia because it meant the city of brotherly love. But he might have also been memorializing the ancient city of Philadelphia that appears in the book of Revelations. Here is an original document from 1688 that is actually signed by William Markham, who helped select the site for Philadelphia. And if you look right here, he actually writes out the word Philadelphia. In 1681, the land that was to become Philadelphia was mostly heavily forested with trees of oak, black walnut, chestnut cypress, hickory, beech, and elm. The Native Americans had given the area the name Kawaknanock, which means Grove of Pines. William Penn set sail for his new colony of Pennsylvania in August 1682. Penn first arrived in present-day Newcastle, Delaware. It is debated whether he actually got off the ship. Penn then made his way to Upland a few days later and renamed the town Chester. Finally, in what was likely early November 1682, Penn arrived in what is present-day Philadelphia. Although it isn't known for sure, the landing area was probably near the Blue Anchor Tavern, which was built around 1682. This area consisted of a creek and a wharf area. Sorry, but the present-day Penn's Landing and amusement area is probably not where Penn landed.
So here we are at present-day Front Street in Philadelphia, and this is probably the site where William Penn landed. Right here where these two trees are is roughly where the Blue Anchor Tavern was. And if you come over here, you can see the cobblestone street in the background. That would have been a creek at the time. And William Penn would have come right in here and would have landed on this spot. Now, if you look off this way, this is looking towards the east, there would have been an embankment here that would have gone down. And that still happens today, but it would have gone down to the Delaware. But now I-95 is there. And if you look off to the east there, you can see the hotel. That is roughly where the Delaware is today, just past that hotel. But back in 1681, the Delaware would have actually come right up to where this fence post is, and there would have been an embankment that would have gone down to the river.
Penn was not initially happy with the 300 acres he bought from the Swanson family and wanted to expand. Penn bought more land from Peter Kock and Peter Rambo, two Swedish settlers. This land purchase expanded the area of Philadelphia from the Delaware to the Schuylkill, giving it a rectangular shape. The total amount of land ended up being about 1,280 acres. Penn was disappointed that he wasn't able to acquire the full 10,000 acres for his city as promised, and he had to cut the amount of land that he had given to the first purchasers. In the summer of 1682, Penn appointed Captain Thomas Holmes, Surveyor General of the colony, and Holmes began to lay out Philadelphia. In early 1683, Holmes published an early map of Philadelphia called Portraiture of the City of Philadelphia. Although the city has changed significantly over the years, much of Holmes' layout and original ideas remain intact. The 1,280 acres that became part of present-day Center City are laid out in a rectangle, stretching a little over a mile from north to south, with the north side being present-day Vine Street and the southern side being around present-day South Street. The city stretched for about 2 miles from east to west. On the west side is the Schuylkill River, and on the east side is the Delaware River. There are two main streets that run through Philadelphia. The first is Market Street, then called High Street, which runs east to west, and then Broad Street, which runs north to south. These streets are wider than the other streets, being nearly 100 feet wide. Today they allow for 2 lanes of traffic. Most of the other streets are only 50 feet wide and are generally one way. Penn set aside 4 town squares, each about 8 acres. Today they are known as Washington, Franklin, Rittenhouse, and Logan Squares. There is also a 10-acre square in the center of the city, originally meant to be for the Quaker Meeting House. It is now the location of City Hall. The other streets generally remained unnamed until 1684, when William Penn named them after the trees in the area. The streets running north and south would have simply been numbered. Despite the city bordering 2 bodies of water, the layout was meant to be inward-facing, with the center of the city being near the Quaker Meeting House. However, things didn't initially play out this way. Many of the first purchasers took their land along the Delaware and didn't really build much past 4th Street. They found that walking all the way into the center of town was cumbersome, and ultimately what was supposed to be the center of the city where the Quaker Meeting House was abandoned. Also, very few people initially settled on the Schuylkill side of the city. The area of importance was along the Delaware River. Soon houses were constructed and the area along Dock Creek was selected as a port. What is interesting is that William Penn's vision of having an inward-facing city eventually came to be, with many of the tall skyscrapers now being inward-facing in the very center of the city. Once Penn arrived, he threw himself into work laying out the lots in Philadelphia. Many of the people who helped found the city lived in the city itself. William Markham, who served as deputy governor and helped select the site of the city, lived in a house on Market Street on the south side of Grindstone Alley. John Goodson, who was considered the very first English doctor in Penn's colony, lived in a house on 2nd Street just north of Walnut Street. Samuel Carpenter, who established the first coffee house in the city and also was behind the design of Tun Tavern, lived in a house just north of Walnut Street on Front Street.
This would have been roughly where Samuel Carpenter lived, and across the street would have been his embankment, and there would have been stairs called the Carpenter Stairs that went down the embankment to the Delaware.
Carpenter later established a wharf on the Delaware as well. David Lloyd, the first Attorney General of Pennsylvania, lived in a house on 2nd Street near present-day City Tavern. Thomas Holme, the man who laid out Philadelphia, lived on Arch Street just west of Front Street. Edward Shippen, the second mayor of Philadelphia, lived in a house on 2nd Street near Dock Creek. But where did William Penn live in Philadelphia? This is somewhat in dispute. We know for sure he owned a huge plot of land along the Delaware near Market Street and Front Street. However, it is unclear if a house was ever built here for him. A house on the site in 1883 was believed to be the house he lived in. The house, known as the Letitia Street House, was later picked up and moved out of the city and is now located near the Philadelphia Zoo in northwest Philadelphia. So this is the center of the plot of land that William Penn owned. It's possible that he had a house somewhere in this area, but it hasn't been proven. William Penn initially had success in establishing Philadelphia, but storm clouds were on the horizon. By late December 1682, problems started to materialize. Over the next 20 years, it would be a constant struggle for Penn to keep his colony from being seized by the king. Join me in the next video when I discuss the issues and how Penn's rule of Philadelphia came to a tragic end.